Chairman. Mr. Brown, it seems the FAA is already in the process of implementing much of the next-gen infrastructure you're calling for. We've been told that 2020 deadlines will be met. As a pilot, sir, can you tell us about the next-gen technology that is already online and how you're using it? And do you believe we need to replicate these systems through privatization?
Great question. I was just thinking about this about a month ago or so. I took off from Piqua, Ohio, population 20,000, from a small airport and flew to Albany, Georgia, a small town with a very vital aviation manufacturer that's a global leader and a big exporter. I flew point to point because of GPS navigation. I had en route weather on the way, and I shot a WAS approach into Albany, Georgia, precision to the numbers. Now, these two towns, in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of our national airspace, have been treated to their resources to build two global leaders in their space, and they have the airport infrastructure to thrive. And I look at that as a perfect example of how government, in this case, is working for the economy, because without that kind of infrastructure and the technology that's driving the flying to and from those places, I don't think these businesses would be located in Piqua, Ohio, or Albany, Georgia. And frankly, I think that's a victory for the people.
Thank you, sir. Lastly, this is a general question. I'm very concerned that, as introduced, this new private air traffic control panel does not include one of the largest users of U.S. airspace, the DoD. I'd like to hear from any of the witnesses their view on how this will impact the close coordination that currently takes space and takes place, and what impact there will be to our national security.
I'll answer that. Let me start by saying, although I spent 3 years in the Pentagon, that air traffic control was not part of my portfolio. I did, however, work very closely with the people in the Air Force who have the day-to-day liaison with the FAA. I worked with them on issues of interference of wind turbines and military and long-range radar. The Department of Defense has huge equities in the national airspace system. They manage 15% of the national airspace. They have 15,000 aircraft, which is more than the airline industry put together. They depend heavily as a user on the air traffic control system, and they support the spinoff of the air traffic control system. And there is a letter from Secretary Mattis to Secretary McCain, Senator McCain, stating that it has to be done carefully so as to protect the arrangements that are currently in place. It's complicated, but bottom line is that this is not inconsistent with national security.
Sure. Yes, sir.
This is an issue that has come up in every one of the 60 countries that has corporatized their system in one form or another. Australia today has a joint project between the Australian military and Air Service Australia to modernize the overall basic air traffic software. It's being developed jointly, will be used jointly with side-by-side military and civilian controllers. There's side-by-side military and civilian controllers in NATS in the UK working together. This is pretty much a routine function now, this military, and in fact there's an annual conference on military air traffic control that is co-sponsored by the Air Traffic Control Association in conjunction with the ATC's own national conference each year. So this is an issue, as Dorothy Robine said, it needs to be handled very carefully to be sure that all the current procedures are incorporated, but it's not considered a problem anywhere in the world that I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
I thank the gentleman, and I appreciate the gentleman.